Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another WeatherCast USA Quickcast. It's going to be a little bit of a different take, also a little bit of a short Quickcast. We are monitoring the need for a severe weather live stream, especially this evening and possibly tomorrow morning. But even if we do not have a live stream, I do want to focus in a little bit on the flash flood threat occurring this evening, overnight, very dangerous time for flash flooding, and then into the morning tomorrow for parts of the I-80 corridor in eastern Nebraska, as well as much of Iowa. You can see here, this is our radar presentation over the last hour or so, filming here in the 7 o'clock hour, about 7:45 in the central time zone. So this is roughly from about 7 or just before 7 to about this time. At MCS, kind of working through southern parts of South Dakota, northern parts of Nebraska, mostly producing 60, a couple 70-mile-an-hour wind reports earlier. That one isn't as big of an issue as it was last night in that same area, but still any trees that didn't fall down or limbs that were loosened by the really strong convective system last night does have a potential to fall as those 60 to 70 mile an hour winds come through. So do keep an eye on that if you live in that part of southeast South Dakota, northeast Nebraska. Those storms are going to continue to work to the east-southeast, so we will see potentially some more severe weather into northern parts of Iowa. And then there are some storms right along the Minnesota-Iowa border. They've been severe at times. They're mostly just kind of hanging out, possibly a little bit of flood threat there as well, as they're not moving that much. But I'm really concerned with the storms in central Iowa, from just north of Des Moines all the way to the areas east of Sioux City. You can see here over the last hour, they have really not moved that much. They're just kind of upscaling and really just lingering. I wouldn't even say drifting as much of a word, because they're not even really drifting. They're just in here. You can also see there's also some slow moving storms into south central parts of Nebraska around Broken Bow, Lexington, down towards McCook. The models do take this convection east over the evening, so we will look for that to move east, but right now it's not moving very much either. Look for this convection here in Nebraska and South Dakota to eventually work towards Iowa. Again, very slow moving. The models here, if I put the models into motion, kick the storms that are hovering around central Iowa to the east after they kind of move into that region between Sioux City, Omaha, and Des Moines. So these storms may linger through the evening. They're going to provide their own flash flood threat. And then we'll look for some severe weather potentially here across Iowa through the overnight hours. Mostly a damaging wind threat. Can't rule out an isolated larger hail. Can't rule out a tornado, but the tornado chances are very minimal this evening and overnight. So primarily, it's going to be a damaging wind threat across the I-80 corridor, extending down into the northern counties of Missouri as well, into the overnight and early morning hours. Looking at the models, let's put this into motion. This is one of the later HRRR runs, and you can see here, those storms, it just kind of continues to develop along the I-80 corridor from around the Des Moines area to up towards Sioux City and Omaha. As I've said about models before, don't look at your exact place on the map and point out the exact pinpoint of the storms. The models just kind of give us a general overview of the area that's likely to have convection. You can also see that convection starting to work its way into eastern Nebraska from the areas in central Nebraska right now. This model particularly has the storms, I think, to the north around the Sioux Falls area and up into Minnesota, a little bit underdone. So we'll have to see how that kind of plays into the real life scenario versus the modeling. That could add even a little additional layer of precip into this area. But either way, the models continue to show clusters of storms working through by 2 a.m. through parts of areas in central Iowa, around Des Moines, and then also another round coming through Omaha down to Lincoln, potentially all the way back towards Hastings and even north and central Kansas. And that's going to continue to work its way through as possibly a few different convective systems through the early morning hours, 5, 7 a.m. around the I-35 corridor, and then in that 7 to 9 range, pushing into southeast Iowa between I-35 and the Mississippi River. And really, the models show 9 to 11, the kind of time frame when that convective system hits the Mississippi River, areas around the Quad Cities up to maybe Dubuque, and then also extending down again into northern Missouri, areas around Columbia, possibly as far south as Jefferson City by tomorrow morning, getting some storms. And then you can see behind that wave of storms, that main convective system, the models do hint at some convection through the day with some afternoon scattered showers and storms, potentially redeveloping, so we'll keep our eye on that one too. Either way, I think it's the time frame from about now and then growing concern for that 10 to 11 to midnight hour in the central time zone. And really from then on until daylight, until mid-morning, storms look to stick around the areas here along I-80. There are flood watches out for Iowa. A number of them have been extended. The latest one for central, southern, and northern Iowa from about 10 p.m. tonight until noon on Wednesday. So it looks like the National Weather Service is seeing the signs like we are that this could be a prolonged flash flooding event. So again, before you go to bed tonight, have your weather action plan for flash flooding. That may look a lot different than your weather action plan for tornadoes. Tornadoes, you definitely want to get low, get to the center of the house. If you can get underground, that's a great option. For flash flooding, underground is not the best option. So make sure before you go to bed tonight, make sure you have your action plan. You know where you're going. If you can, if you're already in a low-lying area and you can get to a higher ground area before you go to bed, that's the best option. This model analysis shows a pretty good area here from Nebraska, especially eastern and central Nebraska, through much of Iowa, again along that I-80 corridor, where there's a general area of that 2 to 3 inch areas there just south of Des Moines, potentially a little bit higher in that 5 to even 6 inches. So this model sometimes underdoes stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's an inch or two on top of what the modeling is saying. But anywhere you see, if you're in this pink and green areas, those are areas that we want to particularly pay attention to. So the only areas that look a little bit drier in Iowa this next 24 hours is going to be that very northern tier around Mason City. The caveat to that, as I mentioned earlier, the models seem to be underdoing some of that current convection around Sioux Falls and southern Minnesota. So even that could fill in later model runs, and we could even see another inch to 3 inches of rain in that area too if that pans out. So please take this seriously. Flash flooding doesn't get the streaming clicks like tornadoes and severe weather and things, but yeah, definitely stay safe, stay weather aware, have multiple ways to get warnings. Make sure you go to bed with that NOAA weather radio charge, and then also make sure you have your alerts on your phone. Stay safe, everyone, and stay tuned here for more weather updates as well as live streaming coverage. Again, we may be on later tonight, and if not, we may also be on tomorrow morning covering that convective system. So whether we're on or not, there could be severe weather in your area, so definitely stay weather aware.